Hi, thanks for joining me today. Are your stepchildren mean or nasty to your children? Subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell and I'll let you know every time I post. So what do you do when your stepchild is mean or horrid to their step-sibling? So if you notice this is going on, my first recommendation is something needs to be done about it. So hoping it's going to get better or go away is probably a false hope. You'll remember being at school. If a teacher turned a blind eye to something, the problem would just carry on. And so often, when you don't have the authority to sort it out, you can't sort it out. So it is important parental role to take steps to sort this out. But how? In the moment when it's actually happening, deal with it. You can go to the two of them and say, what's going on here? And then turn to one and ask for an explanation, and turn to the other and ask for an explanation, and sort it as best you can there and then. And that might mean separating them or making a decision one way or another about what happens to the thing that they're fighting about, or just to calm the thing down at the time. Then, when you are calm yourself, and that might take till the next day or until you've had time to sort of think it through, then make an opportunity to speak to one of the children away from and out of earshot of the other, and say, I just want to talk to you about what happened yesterday when you were fighting, or I noticed this and I had to come into the room. What I'd really like to know from you is what was really going on. And they may say, oh, nothing, I'm not going to tell you. But it is worth trying as much as you can in a kind of equal, I'm interested, I'm curious, I'm wanting to sort this out, and I'm on your side. If, you can tell me what the problem is, we can sort this kind of approach. And then go to the other child and say, have them on their own, out of earshot from the other child, and say, so yesterday, what was going on? How come this was happening, etc. Could you tell me? And come from the same kind of curious approach with a sort of background to, come on, let's try and sort this out so it doesn't happen again, because it must be really unpleasant for you and the other person, and we want to solve this at source. Now, you might get a situation where one will blame the other for what was going on. And then you need to get this to go back to the roots. So if one complains that the other was the cause of it, you then need to go back to the other one and say, so let me just check this. This thing that happened the other day, was it because, and then name what it is that the other child has said they did, and do you think that had anything to do with it? Is that what happened? And then they may say to you, well, that was because they said this to me. And then you've got to go back to the other child and say, well, was it because you said this? And the thing is, what you're trying to do is get to the initial trigger to the fight. And then it takes quite a lot of sort of supervision, but often you can catch that original trigger again, and then you can stop it then and there. So if one of them says, well, she called me something, and then the next thing you know is that you'll be somewhere else, some other day, doing something else, and you'll hear the very same thing again. And then you turn around and you talk to them both and you say, we've talked about this, don't say that. That's not fair, it's not nice, da-da. You've got to try and catch the root cause. And once you do that, you can usually catch it again. And it might be anything, something they say to one another, or one of them pokes the other, or does something, and it's a trigger. And you've got to get to the basic cause of what's going on. Once they know that you're watching them and you catch them a couple of times, they usually won't go there. It's only when you're not supervising them and they can get away with it, and then one can carry on being mean to the other without really being taken to account, that this will carry on. So that's my first recommendation. But it isn't easy as a step-parent to take a hand in addressing the two children, because one of them will be your stepchild. And sometimes the stepchild can think that you're being especially mean to them, and they can complain about you to their other parent or to somebody or other, and it can escalate. So it is also worth speaking to your partner about what's going on and what you're doing about it. So if it does escalate, your partner at least knows that there is this problem, and not just to make it worse by siding with their child against you and your child, and the whole thing can get even more out of control. If you're finding that this is a problem, there is another important thing you need to do as a step-parent, and that is to introduce a system for communication so you can address nastiness in a forum away from when it's happening and away from what it's about. And that is to hold regular communication meetings with the family together. And that is including your child, including the stepchildren. And these needn't be formal type events. They could be chats before or after a meal, or when stepchildren arrive, or beginnings of all the long holidays, or something of that nature. Just regular, because at these meetings you can talk about harmony in the home. A good way to do this is to get yourself a big piece of paper, flip chart paper, something like that, and on it write down the suggestions they come up with for how they want to feel in the home. How do you want to feel in this home? And they may come up with the most outrageous things, like boisterous and angry and whatever. Write everything down, but they'll also come up with things like, I want to feel happy, or I want to feel calm, or I want it to be fun, and write all those things down. And then turn to them and say, okay, if we want a home that is going to be fun and happy, what are the things that we've got to have in place to make it like that? And one of the things will be to be nice to each other. And so then you can put some rules in place that mean they're going to be nice to each other. Best to put rules in a positive frame rather than a negative. So the rule isn't nobody's to be mean to each other, because that's negative. We want it to be people need to be nice to each other. That's a positive. And then you can list the things that might mean, and get them to talk to you about what should be on that list. Like, well, you're respectful, no hitting, no fighting, or whatever. And there you have it. Then, once you've got the rules in place in the house, then you've got another lever for you and your partner to manage the not so nice behaviour between the step-siblings. There is one other thing, which is why your stepchild might be mean to your child. And that is that they're jealous of your child because they may see your child maybe having a different experience of being brought up than they are, for whatever reason. You know, they just feel as though it's unfair and they've got a less good situation. And that's the other thing to be mindful of. If you think that they're jealous of your child and that's why they're being mean, then that too needs to be addressed. And possibly that would mean things like more one-to-one time with your partner so that they feel as though they get some more individual parental time. You having and building a particular interest with them so that they feel as though they've got a little bit of special you as well. And addressing any underlying hurt that they may be holding as a result of anything that has gone on in the family before you became a step family. This kind of problem is very upsetting in a step family. And the final thing is to manage yourself so you don't get incandescent with rage at your own child being treated not very nice. If you can just hold it together and manage yourself in the first instance so you can deal with this, that can really, really make a difference. We run workshops, sessions, and an email response service. Look in the description box below for details to our social media and website.